What James Garner said about Randolph Scott moments before his death. In Norman, Oklahoma, on April 7, 1928, James Scott Garner came into this world. A strong work ethic and an honest character were traits he inherited from his small-town upbringing during the Great Depression. Early in life, Garner had a tough time. When he was 5 years old, his mother passed away, and his father, Weldon Garner, had a hard time providing stability. In order to make ends meet, James spent a lot of his boyhood bouncing about from relative to relative and working odd jobs. The calm resilience and profound empathy that would later define his on-screen persona were ingrained in him by these early adversities. Serving his country with honor was Garner's first priority before he even thought about performing. He enlisted in the Merchant Marines after dropping out of high school at the age of 16. Thereafter, he was a U.S. Army soldier who served bravely throughout the Korean War, receiving 2 Purple Hearts as a reward. His heroic portrayals of committed soldiers who fought for justice, no matter the cost, mirrored his exemplary military service. Both the physical and mental wounds he sustained during the conflict continue to bother him to this day. The great humility and refusal to glamorize heroism that he possessed, nonetheless, set him apart from the other leading men in Hollywood. Acting was virtually Garner's unintentional entry point. He returned from the war and settled in Los Angeles, where he did a variety of occupations, one of which was modeling for advertisements. The handsome actor was discovered by a talent agency while he was assisting a buddy with a role. Collected manner and inherent appeal. He gained experience in the industry through bit parts and auditions rather than schooling. The 1957 successful TV series Maverick, in which he played the role of Brett Maverick, was his big break. Thanks to the show's astute blend of Western allure, humor, and adventure, Garner became an overnight star. As a representation of Garner's real-life character, his Maverick was comical, hesitant to fight unless absolutely necessary, and always prepared with a savage rebuttal. The success of Maverick catapulted James Garner to stardom in the 60s. The Thrill of It All, 1963, and Move Over Darling, 1963, in which he co-starred with Doris Day, were romantic comedies. The Great Escape, 1963, in which he co-starred with Steve McQueen, was a war epic. He made a smooth transition to the silver screen. Both audiences and critics found Garner's effortless charisma and nuanced emotional depth to be endearing. He stood himself from his peers by eschewing the ostentatious displays of celebrity that were commonplace during his time in Hollywood. His colleagues frequently praised him as an exemplary gentleman, pragmatist, and compassionate person. Once again, Garner captivated audiences in the 1970s with the legendary detective series The Rockford Files. Garner reimagined the archetype of the television hero as Jim Rockford, a private detective known for his wisecracks and habit of using words rather than violence to escape trouble. His portrayal of the show's intelligent, humorous, and realistic protagonist won him an Emmy Award in 1977 and won him admirers' undying devotion. There were a lot of physical demands on Garner as he did a lot of his own stunts for the character, and he hurt himself a lot. His commitment, however, remained unfaltering. His professionalism shone through as he worked through chronic back pain and tiredness, rarely missing a day. A combination of elegance and adaptability defined Garner's latter work. The Notebook, 2004, in which he played the loving role of an elderly husband tending to his sick wife, affected viewers all over the world, and Murphy's Romance, 1985, for which he was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor, were 2 of his most praised films. His popularity on screen never faded, and he made a triumphant return to television with projects like the Maverick series and the reunion films for the Rockford Files. While fighting for artistic independence in Hollywood and speaking out against unjust studio practices, Garner was also a revered champion for actors' rights. An everlasting love story defined James Garner's private life, mirroring the same gentleness, stability, and subtle power that fans adored in his on-screen character. The vibrant and lovely Lois Josephine Fleischman Clark was his one and only wife, and they remained business partners for almost 60 years. The meeting between them was like something out of a Hollywood film. In 1956, Garner and Lois met at a social event, and they hit it off immediately. According to his recollections, he was utterly enchanted by her vitality and enthusiasm, and for 14 consecutive nights, they dined out. My feelings for her were completely out of control. Its briefness was the only thing that could rival the intensity of their courting. It only took 16 days before they tied the knot, on August 17, 1956. Theirs was a marriage that shocked everyone by lasting so long, especially considering how skeptical people were of whirlwind romances back then. For some reason, Garner's incessant jokes about how he had spent $77 on their honeymoon nearly broke me. That astute, modest remark was characteristic of the actor, who maintained his humility and charisma despite his success and stardom. Similar to military service, Garner frequently and humorously portrayed marriage. A marriage is like a military unit. The amount of individuals who re-enlist is surprising, considering how many people complain. It was a joke he made once. A profound comprehension of dedication and persistence, qualities that he and Lois possessed, was reflected in the comparison rather than cynicism. Their partnership, similar to every long-term marriage, had its fair share of difficulties, but it was built on true love and devotion. With Lois's Judaism, the couple's home life took a different cultural and spiritual turn, but their mutual respect made that irrelevant. Despite Garner's reputation for religious reticence, he wholeheartedly accepted her views and took solace in the harmony she provided to his volatile acting career. At the time of their marriage, Lois had a little daughter from a prior marriage. She had a daughter named Kim, who was 9 years old and was bouncing back from polio, an illness that plagued youngsters of that period and caused them long-term difficulties. With grace and empathy, Garner assumed the position of Lois's stepfather, offering stability and kindness to the family. His on-screen roles were known for their calm goodness, and this was just one way his character reflected that. Even though he was modest and unassuming, people who knew him well frequently spoke about his strong sense of duty and charity. Newborn Greta Gigi Garner was the daughter of Garner and Lois, who became parents in 1958. Gigi rose from humble beginnings on January 4, 1958, to become a respected figure in her field, first as a child star and then as a producer and foundation leader. Garner's devotion to his family shone through in his heartfelt and proud descriptions of his kids. Nearly 58 years have passed in the Garner marriage, an impressive feat in Hollywood where many couples' relationships fail due to the stresses of stardom, long separations, and public scrutiny. But there were bumps in the road throughout their time together. The first separation lasted 3 months in 1970, and the second, which was longer, occurred in 1979. While Garner did acknowledge that Lois and he needed time apart to develop as people, he insisted that their relationship had never been shattered throughout their separation. "All we needed was some space," he remarked previously. "But eventually we got back together." The couple got back together in September 1981, as he had promised, and they renewed their vows to each other. James Garner, who had a legendary career in Hollywood, was notoriously quiet. His gentlemanly demeanor and easygoing charisma helped him avoid the controversies that surrounded Hollywood. Later interviews, nevertheless, brought up the topic of Randolph Scott, and Garner shocked many with his forthright comments. Garner famously claimed that Randolph Scott was among Hollywood's most reclusive and ill-understood actors. The real man was quite different from his television persona, yet many believed they knew him. With this statement, Garner revealed a side of Scott, one molded by discipline, that was previously unknown. Stillness, power, and an ethos that looked to have been handed down from another time. Although Garner came into her own as a Hollywood star decades after Scott had already established himself as one of the best Western actors of all time, she had nothing but respect for Scott. Scott had already achieved legendary status while Garner was a young actor just beginning out. His self-assured demeanor betrayed his certainty in his identity. There was an authentic feeling of presence rather than contrivance or theatrics. Garner made the observation that Scott could command respect without resorting to loud noises or showy gestures. His unflappable self-assurance and subtle intensity could command attention in any setting. Scott embodied a Hollywood ideal of manhood that was collapsing, according to Garner. A modest man of impeccable character whose deeds spoke volumes more than his notoriety ever could. However, Garner did not hesitate to mention that Scott was likewise a mysterious man. It was his private life that he kept hidden, he claimed. What was going on beneath that calm facade was a mystery to everyone. Even after months of collaboration, you won't feel like you know this guy. Because of the need for such strict confidentiality, Garner felt that misconceptions could arise. After Scott, rumors would fly in regards to his private life, his connections, and his alleged coldness. On the other hand, Garner disregarded a lot of rumors. According to Garner, people started making up stories because he failed to provide them with any significant material for conversation. Neither fame nor fortune were his goals, and he refused to play the Hollywood game. For him, it was enough to let his job speak for itself. On set, Scott was also respected by Garner for his professionalism. Everyone was handled with respect, and he was punctual and knew his lines. Respectfully, from the director to the team, Garner stated. A consistent approach like that is unusual in Hollywood, despite how easy it sounds. Every time, Scott insisted on doing a good job. Scott had a strict upbringing in the South, where discipline and good manners were paramount, according to Garner. As Garner pointed out, he never let go of that honorable Southern spirit. He always kept his cool and handled disagreements with grace. Considering Scott's impact, Garner took a moment to think. Even though he wasn't the most flamboyant or popular actor, Randolph Scott made an impression that would last a lifetime. Gimmicks weren't necessary, he claimed. All he did was stand tall and steady, and you took his word for it. To me, that is acting. Aside from the Western genre, Garner also showed that Scott had an impact outside of it. In Garner's opinion, he was the prototypical leading man. The audience held him in high esteem since he was a man of principle, reliable, and powerful. A lot of us, whether intentionally or not, made an effort to meet that standard. On the other hand, Garner did concede that Scott's emotional remoteness could be a barrier around some situations. As Garner recalled, he was not the type of man to engage in deep, personal conversations with. His emotions were kept hidden from the world. Maybe that's the reason his protagonists were usually so unmoving. There he was. Even so, this was not a problem in Garner's eyes. On the contrary, he noticed it as a real aspect of Scott. His friend Garner noted that he wasn't acting out emotionally or openly to win people over. His authenticity was greatly admired, and he was content to be himself. After all was said and done, Garner's remarks regarding Randolph Scott were a compliment and a subtle revelation. The one word that best describes him, according to Garner, is steadfast. He refused to give in to peer pressure or follow the latest fashions. His own code of conduct guided his life, and he never strayed from it. Such weighty statements came from a man of James Garner's stature, who was renowned for his own humility and honesty. Garner gave audiences a rare look into Scott's character, revealing that the movie's austere cowboy was actually a guy of extraordinary depth, dignity, and discipline. The silent power of this genuine Hollywood original influenced many. Just days before James Garner and Lois Clark would have celebrated their 58th wedding anniversary, he tragically passed away in 2014. This ended one of Hollywood's most legendary love stories. The timing of his passing was particularly tragic, as it highlighted the profound depth of their nearly 60 years of marriage. Impressive, considering the prevalence of short-lived partnerships and divorces in this field. No amount of fame's ups and downs, no amount of public scrutiny, or even the passage of time could break the link that Garner and Lois had shared. Their 1956 marriage was a result of a simple truth, that sometimes when two people meet, they simply know. They had only dated for 2 weeks when they tied the knot, but their relationship proved that love can last. The love of Garner's life, Lois, was a term he used frequently in interviews. According to many who knew the pair, he had an incredibly committed relationship with her when they were alone, in contrast to his seemingly carefree and tough exterior. In his twilight years, Garner's health started to deteriorate, but Lois was always there for him. Peaceful and loving care for him at their Brentwood home, protecting him from prying eyes. After James Garner's untimely death on July 19, 2014, at the age of 86, Lois was left with an eternal hole. Even though she lived another 7 years, her loved ones believed that she never really recovered from his death. His absence spoke volumes to Lois because he had been there for her through thick and thin, as a confidant, companion, and business partner. She supposedly found solace in the memories of their shared exploits, which spanned his early television successes in Maverick and The Rockford Files, as well as his later cinematic triumphs, and her days were more peaceful as a result. As long as her husband was the center of attention, she was happy to take a back seat. but their friends and family say she was the rock he could always rely on. The fact that Lois was so grounded helped their marriage succeed, and Garner had previously acknowledged that her steady character suited his occasionally fiery disposition.